Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla, and today I am bringing you yet another episode of Car Rides with Schla. Now today I did something pretty fancy, pretty different, pretty interesting. We did the first episode of Walkouts with Schla, and Walkouts with Schla is basically just chill, walking, talking with the mic, but it's just a different form of transportation, and I have a feeling I'm going to turn it into a spin-off kind of this series, but it's going to be the same series. I'm still going to call it Car Rides with Schla. Maybe some people will get mad at me over that, but I don't particularly think it matters in my honest opinion. I think my logic is sound. So, yeah. I think it all adds up. I think it all makes sense. Honestly. Truly and honestly. Now, I did want to point out, because I don't know if I said it on the recording or not. I cannot remember. But in Walks with Schla, I was talking about Tesla and how Tesla is actually spelled Tesla. So if I ever got into electric cars, we could have Car Rides with Schla in the Tesla. And I just thought that was like a pretty cool idea. But I'm not entirely sure, right? Because yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm really into electric cars or not. But this is the crazy thing. What I was talking about is how I'm not that impressed with how the Tesla looks, the Tesla Model S, or really any of their cars. But their overall design language, it's not really that interesting to me. It just, I guess it's sharp, if that even means anything, but I really don't know. I don't know that I'm the biggest fan of the way they design their stuff. It just doesn't speak to me too much. But I do particularly like the original Model S, which might be somewhat of a controversial take because some people think it's ugly due to the fake grille on the front. But the original Model S, I just think is a pretty good looking car. I still don't think it's great. I'm not going to say it's necessarily my favorite looking car, but it's pretty cool looking. I don't know why. I always liked that original Model S. But the subsequent ones I haven't really cared for. Now here's the crazy thing. I was talking about that in Walks with Schla, and right after or at the end of the episode, one pulls up. I could not believe it, because you don't really see them that often. Like, I can't even remember the last time I saw one before then. So I was just kind of shook. Coincidences like that happen to me a lot, though, but I always like to take note of them because it's a sign. It's a sign of things. It happens to me all the time. I guess I'm in tune with God or something. I don't know, or could reveal more about that, but I'm keeping it under wraps for the time being, keeping it a secret. But it was super cool to see that, and I got to get a good look at it. Now, I think that's about the main updates for today. I saw a video that kind of spoke to me a bit, and I'm kind of realizing something about the AI takeover and how it definitely has affected things, but the thing is, it's hurt a lot of people, and it's apparently taken a lot of soul out of stuff. I know you're probably saying like, oh yeah, no kidding, but the only reason I'm mentioning it is because I obviously have had a very, very significant rally about AI, talking about it in a hyped up way, and how I believe that for me personally, I'm going to win, or I'm going to end up winning. But this video kind of made me think of a different perspective. So I'm actually not going to try to reiterate the video. I think I'm just going to talk about it how I want to. Essentially, a lot of toxicity ends up occurring as a result of AI, because before, in order to make good content, you would have to actually take the time to be patient and learn a skill, and then know how to edit a video, for example. Whereas now, since there's a lot of AI improvements, it ends up making it so a lot of people who didn't really have to learn can now just make content and it comes out pretty well. And so the threshold of who can make seemingly good content is so much lower that it just makes anybody being able to come up with stuff, which promotes evil. It promotes evil because then there's a lot of dark people who will lazily do things for clout or for views, and they'll do it because they don't even have to put work into it. You know, it's one thing to do something selfish or destructive, but you have to work at it. And then it's another thing to be greedy, but there's very easy incentive to just get it done. You notice how that's obviously two very different factors at play. And that's kind of the gist of it. And it's something I genuinely didn't think about a whole lot this whole time. I've obviously had quite the optimistic stance on it, for better or worse. You know? And I guess I'll still hold that because, like I said, me as a speaker, I think I benefit from that. A lot of the other things like writing or editing, the other aspects to content creation, I've never been super into. It's pretty draining for me, but speaking isn't. And in my opinion, that's the most important thing. Now, what is scaring me, and I don't know why I didn't really think about this before, but AI speaking is making a lot of progress. So I could also be put out of business, because here I am putting a lot of effort into buying an expensive microphone. Well, I got a really good deal on it, but you know, potentially in the future I could really have a better one. Putting a lot of effort into researching into a good microphone, trying to figure out all this recording stuff. And apparently I feel like we're pretty dangerously close to just AI speaking, sounding really good. It's not like the robot voices of times past. A lot of this stuff, it sounds good. It comes off as good. And that's super important to take note of, you know? It's very relevant, I think. For me, it's scary because I have such a strong suit when it comes to communication, and knowing that there's a model that I guess could just replicate me and even just completely outdo me with no effort is pretty scary. I don't think we're that far away from that, so it begs the question of what I'm even really doing, because I probably could just be put out of business by some AI voice. You know, and I just think that's kind of a scary thought. I genuinely do. Because it's my strength, and I don't really know what else I have going for me. I know that sounds sad. I do have other things going for me, but I am a very particular case where I'm aware of a lot of these issues when it comes to people, oh, more people should do things that are important and stuff like that. I'm being so vague in general right now. More people should, learn how to fish, learn how to go outside, do this or that, have hobbies, right? We're kind of living in this time where hobbies have gone away. And I kind of feel like a part of that. When I was younger, I played a lot of DS, Pokemon, and I didn't really cultivate a whole lot, although, like I've explained, actually in retrospect, I had ended up cultivating a lot, because that's when I started to talk to myself, to have the pretend Let's Plays I've talked about before. So it did actually end up cultivating the talking to myself skill, which has obviously become, I think, very important. I guess I'm just worried I missed the window, and then AI could come in and just take off and snatch me, but I'm not sure. I really wonder if the AI voice will ever... I'm pretty confident it will, but it will be able to, replicate human very well. I guess I was just saying there is something about, raw speech that I guess in my self-interest would hope AI would have a harder time replicating than writing, for example. I think writing is a lot easier to replicate. But even now, there's so much to speech where I don't know, but I'm a believer that AI really is going to take over. So I think in writing especially. But when it comes to speaking, that may be a harder hurdle to jump over, but I don't think it's out of the question. I think it still could surpass my speaking capabilities, which is, again, not really good for my self-interest. And I don't know why, but I wasn't really thinking about it that sensitively. I think that's a good way to put it. I was not thinking about it with that sensitivity. I was just seeing the advantages it would give. And I guess, ultimately, even the intellect I talked about, AI could eventually surpass. But I still think we're going to need intelligent humans who are very good with words and communication, and that's something that, in my experience with talking to others, I'm very strong-suited in. So I don't know. I don't know if it'll matter. I don't know if these videos will end up mattering. And it's just kind of sad and scary to think about that, as I guess I feel like time's running out and there's not much traction, and just in a year or two there could be very competent AI voices. I think there already are, to some extent. It's not, I have not looked super deeply into it, but I really feel like in just a few years, is it going to even make sense for me to continue to do this? Am I at the end? Are these recordings a lot more significant than I thought? It's kind of sad, but I guess I'll have to adapt to what is to come, right? It's difficult to be upset about it, and I think that's something I've embraced, and I've said a lot in some of these previous monologues, and I guess I'm going to continue to acknowledge now, is that it's very easy to romanticize the past. We really witnessed a special time, and it's kind of unfair because I got to take a bite out of it. It's like, you get the best cookie ever, but you only got to take a bite out of it, and then now all the cookies don't taste good anymore. And it's sad, and it's hard to deal with, I think. I think a lot of people are having a hard time dealing with that stuff. I know I have, and I'm I guess I'm trying to be more of a futurist, as I think maybe it's a mentally healthier way. Like I said, I think AI is inevitable, and I think it's better to come to terms with that and be a supporter of what is than to try to cling to something that isn't. Because ultimately, that's what I think's happening. Is the soul and the character of humanity is just dissipating, and it's sad, there's not an appreciation for even the kind of content I do, obviously, as it's not making its way through the algorithm and people aren't clicking on it, even though it's good content. I think it should be very refreshing to the people who listen to it. But I don't know. I guess I have to give it time. Perhaps the fact that I am doing all this work in spite of the AI will matter to somebody. I think it should. I think it's cool. Because I do think there's got to be something different in human speech. And I really think it's more specific than human writing. I think human writing is so easy to replicate. But speech, there's so much when it comes to pausing at the right time and all these things and striking certain topics. And there's a skill to it, that is live. I think that's the most important thing. Writing, as much as it's a skill, it's not live, so the ceiling is so much higher that you have to hit. I mean, if you want to write a good book, you essentially have to revise it, do it over, figure it out. You can't just write it, because there's a really high expectation, because you have an unlimited amount of editing and stuff to do, whereas my content is essentially live content. Which is why I think I've explained before, I really would be best suited as a live streamer. And I wish I could do that, but where I'm at in life, I don't think that's worth it. Because I want to be making money. So, but I think in time, I think live streaming is really where I'm going to reside. I think that's more so just with the way of my speaking. I mean, I'm not meant to be a perfecter when it comes to speech. I don't really like editing. And so, yeah, I think live streaming is definitely going to be the realm and the medium I belong in. And these are essentially a live stream-like content, because it's not processed. It's very raw. It's very real. And I think that's important to some people. But yeah, I think that's why just live streaming would be a better medium. But I think that's the thing with writing, is writing already is artificial, because it's usually changed. And even if it's not changed, you don't know how the person said it. We have some degree of punctuation that can convey some level of tone, but at the end of the day, text is just fundamentally flawed and incapable of conveying the same degree of articulation that a voice can. So, but you know what? I guess devil's advocate to that is that that's part of the magic of a book, I think, is when I would read books as a child, you kind of envision your own, like, oh, this is how the character looks. And it's not objective, right? Because when you watch a movie, you're just seeing what the characters look like. But when you read a book, you come up with your very own version of how all the characters look and sound and all those things, right? And so there is some kind of a magic to that I guess makes real vocals or real visuals different than reading a book. I guess that's a good point. But my assertion is still accurate that you could... I don't know, that is interesting though. So a book is slightly more subjective because somebody could have had a certain intention in writing something, but somebody else could actually end up interpreting it or getting something out of it that the original person didn't even intend. And I guess that goes for speaking too, but I think with speech, it's a lot more obvious what is and isn't a joke and what is or isn't up for interpretation due to other cues that occur. So it's different, but I still think, I don't know, it's an interesting conversation to delve in, I think, about that. But yeah, I guess I have to hope it's hard, but I don't know like I've said a million times, I'm reaching a point, I talked about this morning, where it finally feels like it's hitting me. It's time to be an adult. You know, I don't really find myself wanting to play video games anymore. And obviously Car Rides Witchla was a huge step in this adult direction, right? Every other time, I actually honestly don't always listen to music in the car. A lot of times the car would just be silent. But, it would either just be silence or listening to music. Like everybody else, not getting anything out of their commute, really. And I changed that and flipped it on its head, and a lot of people can't do that. I don't know that I've heard of anyone or met anybody who does something this similar, but I know it's out there. I know I'm not the only person. Like earlier, I thought I was special for being able to think and talk at the same time, and I heard that, when I asked GPT, most people do that. So I'm not special in that way. And I know a lot of people record and talk during long rides. I'm sure a lot of truckers, I think I've seen, have YouTube channels before where they talk and drive the truck. So it's not too crazy, but I think my consistency and output is pretty high, all things considered, because I don't drive for a living. I think it's different if you drive for a living, you're obviously you're going to be really looking for something to do. You're really going to have an itch to scratch. Whereas my job is not, it's not like I have to drive necessarily. And I just think a lot of things go over people's heads. And they just don't really think about it. Which is, obviously just interesting. Because I think we've talked about that pretty often before, about how it just seems like I notice things or think of things that a lot of people just doesn't seem to dawn on them, and then I kind of assume it dawns on people, but then that's not always true, and it's all kinds of stuff, It's all kinds of stuff. But I figure at this point I don't know how I could stop. Even if there was this AI risk, I don't know that I'd want to stop doing what I do. It's just enjoyable. And it's so much, I just don't know how it didn't dawn on me sooner, I was just such a mess for the last couple years. But I really feel like things are pretty together now. I don't know, I feel like I'm doing pretty good for myself. I'm pretty at peace. I don't know what else I could really be doing, going to college, taking classes, but that would require investment, and that I think would kind of tick me off. Because I don't know that it's really worth it. And I don't know how much it'll matter in the future. I think I probably discussed that before. I really think the value of a college degree is dwindling very quickly. It would just be kind of like more of a rite of passage kind of thing, I suppose, where just something a lot of people do, and maybe I should too type of thing. I don't really know. Something like that, right? It's an accomplishment, but I just don't know. I really never liked school, so it's kind of a problem if I enroll in classes and then don't end up doing any of the assignments or end up not passing or something. I just never liked school. I've kind of regretted that attitude and wished I'd put more effort in and all that, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think things probably worked out how they did for a reason, but I guess there's just a little more to be nervous about now that I'm seeing how in some ways AI is going to hurt me because of the speaking thing, but I think it's more immune than writing. I do. Although I'm sure that's already happening where some people who are voice actors, they're losing their job. I know it's not. Is it really voice actors? I feel like there's a more accurate term for voice actors, but maybe it is just voice actors. I don't know. But I think that's the main thing. I guess if I haven't expressed it explicitly yet at this point, the main thing is just the nature of my content and what is palatable to most people now. I think it's it's very deep, and I don't really think I come across a lot of content as deep as mine. So that, of course, it's pretty scary. Like, I don't know, to me it's pretty scary. Because I don't know if there's really that many people out there that will enjoy it or not. But I guess I shouldn't really get caught up thinking about that stuff. Because at the end of the day, a lot of it's just an experience for myself. You know, like I said, the original intention was I want it to be a platform that ends up being a furtherment of a social platform. Remember, just to give a refresher, it's basically like I obviously can't talk to 5 people at the same time, but with the advent of YouTube, I could. You could have hundreds of people watch this episode, and then people make comments about the same conversation, and I effectively end up reaching more people simultaneously. And since I value my conversations as much as I do, I really like it being tangibly recorded. Because now a lot of times when I talk to people and it's not recorded and I have to put effort into trying to make my speech a certain way and make sure everything's all polished, I think it's kind of annoying, you know, because I'd want to have it tangibly recorded. But I don't, you know, there's a lot of times social interaction isn't recorded. But now it's so different how much that changed. And I don't know. I mean, am I doing it just for the the fame of it or the fame potential? Am I doing it for YouTube? I don't know that it really feels like that. You know, I'm saving all my recordings, so I think I'm also keeping them for myself. I don't know that I'm doing this just for YouTube, and I think if I was, I probably would have quit by now, realistically, because I don't know why someone would keep doing it. But I think that goes back to the idea that the really good ideas come from some type of vision. They don't come from wanting to chase the algorithm or things like that. Although some people may be successful chasing the algorithm, but I mean like a real soul level content. It's going to come from some kind of intention. And I hope I can make a living out of it, but like I explained, I think that would be more of a live stream type of thing. I just hope that this can get me there, and I have some kind of base where it's like a few hundred or hopefully thousands of people, and we get a bunch of people willing to hop on Patreon and kind of make it so I have a way to start with the live stream and some kind of a cushion, like something. But I guess the argument could be made is you got to just go out and do it. That's true too. So I think should probably look into the history of, live streamers, and if they really put it down to the wire and risked it. There's probably examples of people where they just got lucky and they didn't get like a cushy start or anything like that. So I don't know. I guess I'm not confident enough yet, but perhaps in time I may be. And just quitting the job and trying to live stream, because it's frustrating, but that's really where I belong. That's really the medium where I will excel. I think the problem is I don't really like gaming, and that's a pretty common thing. So my streams would be, I want to say probably reaction content. That's not really what I want to say, but it's probably just going to be talking about stuff that happens. That's my guess. And answer, people in chat, like answering their questions. But I just know I'm built for that, and it's frustrating that I don't have the platform yet for it. But I'm giving it time, and like I said, I don't really see the risk. I am obviously upset that things haven't taken off yet, but there's so many examples of people who were successful and it took time. And like I said, it's not like I'm getting nothing out of this. I still save all the audio and stuff, so I think it's useful to have a library like this and to have the transcripts and to really have a lot of stuff documented. Like I said, even though I don't think my opinions in the past were as good necessarily or as mature, I still think it would have been really cool to be able to have a record of thoughts I had on this day or this, I think that would be very cool, and at least I'm going to have that moving forward. And it would really look cool if I continue this for life, even if, because I honestly, what I was going to say is even if it declines in the amount of output, like if I stop working, obviously it's going to change everything up because I won't have the car ride anymore. But if I stopped working, I'm sure I'm only going to make more content. I'm only going to talk more. If anything, the work is just limiting me a lot. So when I quit, it's not going to change. It's actually just going to be longer. It's going to be more content, I'm sure. Because this is what I want to do, So it's only up from here, really, I think. It's still only up. We've barely even scratched the surface of potential, I think. I guess I'm hopeful. I'm just hopeful that things end up working out. I don't feel too bad, though. A year ago, I felt a lot more scared and miserable about life. I'm in a better place, and we'll see how things are next year. Maybe it's going to be even better. Maybe I'll have some of the progress that I'm looking for and all that stuff. And, there's other endeavors I want to pursue, other channel ideas. And I hope they're successful, too. But yeah, I think that is an important thing. I think as much as I still think depression is looming, I've really come a long way. You know, I'm fairly motivated to do things. I don't, you know, besides maybe cleaning my room, we've really come a long way. I mean, I don't know. I think that's kind of obvious too. I don't know that I would have the energy to do all this if I was not somewhat happy. I mean, I don't know. But who knows? Anyways, it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So see ya schla.